I thought God had abandoned me when my business failed, but now I know He wasn't taking from me. He was freeing me from what was holding me captive. The sizzling sound of butter melting on a hot pan fills the air. Aroma of roasted garlic and rosemary floats through the kitchen. I stand at the edge of the stainless steel counter, watching my chefs move with perfect rhythm, pans clattering, knives chopping, waiters rushing in and out with plates that look like artwork. Outside the kitchen, through the glass doors, the dining hall is alive. Elegant jazz music hums softly under the laughter of guests. Wine glasses clink. Every table is full. People are smiling, taking photos, celebrating birthdays and anniversaries. I look around and for a moment I feel proud. This is my restaurant, my dream. Nancy's Table, one of Manhattan's busiest bistros tonight. But only I know. Just a few months ago, this very place was a ghost town. Customers had disappeared. My staff had gone on strike. The lights nearly went out forever. Now, as I stand in this bustling kitchen, I can hardly believe how close I came to losing it all. Not just my restaurant, but myself. My name is Nancy Carter. I'm 45 years old, born and raised in New York. This restaurant wasn't something I built from scratch. It was a gift, or maybe a test, from my father, Joseph Carter, a man who spent 40 years behind stoves and soup pots. Dad started this restaurant back in the 80s. It was his pride, his ministry in disguise. He used to say, "Feeding people is another way of showing love, Nancy. A meal cooked with care can heal a soul." But when he retired 2 years ago and handed me the keys, I didn't see it that way. To me, it wasn't about love or ministry. It was business, pure business. I had an MBA, experience in corporate finance, and I believed success was measured in profit margins and spreadsheets. At first, things went smoothly. We had loyal customers who loved my dad's recipes. Revenue was steady. And I thought, see, I've got this. I can even do better than Dad. But I had no idea how fragile success could be when the heart is missing. It started slowly. Food prices in New York shot up. Rent increased. Utilities became ridiculous. The profit that once looked solid began to melt away like ice on a summer day. So I made what I thought was a smart business decision. I cut costs. I switched to cheaper ingredients. Imported olive oil became generic. Fresh fish was replaced with frozen. The chef, Miguel, a man who had cooked beside my father for 20 years, tried to warn me. "Nancy," he said, his accent thick, but his voice calm. "Your father always said, quality is sacred. People will taste the difference." But I was too stubborn, too numbers-driven. I snapped back. "Miguel, this isn't the 80s anymore. People care about price, not stories." That was the first fracture. Soon the kitchen lost its soul. Meals that once had warmth now tasted hollow. Customers noticed. Reviews began to drop on Yelp and Google. One morning, I walked into the restaurant to find two waiters arguing with Miguel. They were upset about the new ingredients and unpaid overtime. By evening, half my staff had walked out. Within 3 months, Nancy's Table, once my pride, was empty. I would sit by the window, watching pedestrians pass by, hoping someone would walk in. Most days, only 2 or 3 customers came. Every night, I stared at the invoices piling up, whispering, "Where did I go wrong?" One gray Sunday morning, I decided to visit my father. He lived 2 hours north, in a quiet little town near the Hudson River. The drive felt longer than usual. My chest was tight the entire way. When I arrived, he was sitting in his garden, pruning roses, his favorite pastime. He looked up, smiled softly, and said, "Nancy, my girl, you look tired." I didn't even try to hide it. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I sat beside him and and confessed everything. How the restaurant was collapsing, how I felt lost, ashamed, angry, and scared. He listened quietly, like he always did, not judging, just letting me speak until the words ran dry. Then he said something unexpected. "Come with me," he said, wiping his hands. "There's somewhere I want to take you." We drove to a small church nearby. Old, with wooden pews and stained glass windows that glowed in the afternoon light. It smelled like candles and hope. My father knelt down at the altar and whispered, "Talk to him, Nancy. Tell him everything." At first, I resisted. It had been years since I prayed. But something inside me cracked open, so I knelt beside him, and for the first time in so long, I spoke honestly. Not to a God of rituals, but to the God who knew my heart. "Lord," I said, "I thought I could control everything. I thought money and success made me safe. But now I see I've lost my way. Please help me find what truly matters again." After I finished, I felt lighter, as if the weight I'd been carrying finally had somewhere to go. Dad placed a hand on my shoulder and said softly, "Nancy, maybe God didn't take your success away. Maybe he's freeing you from what was enslaving you." That night, his words echoed in my mind, freeing me from what enslaves me. Could it be that my obsession with money was my prison? I began going to church again every Sunday. One sermon changed everything. The pastor said, "True wealth isn't measured by how much you keep, but by how much you give." He read Proverbs 3:9-10. "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing." For the first time in years, I cried during prayer, not because I was sad, but because I realized I had been worshiping the wrong God, money. The next morning, I called a staff meeting. Everyone looked tense. I could feel the wall of mistrust. Miguel stood in the corner, arms crossed, eyes cold. I took a deep breath and said, "I owe you all an apology. I made decisions out of fear, not faith. I chased numbers and forgot people. I forgot what this restaurant was built on: love, care, and quality." Silence. Then Miguel's eyes softened slightly. I continued, "From today, things will change. No more cheap ingredients. We go back to our original suppliers. It may cost more, but it's worth it. I can't promise we'll make big profits right away, but I promise we'll cook with integrity." A few of them smiled. Miguel nodded. "Then let's get to work," he said. That day, something came alive again in the kitchen. The smell of fresh herbs returned. The laughter of my staff filled the air, and for the first time in months, customers smiled after their meals. Outside of work, I started volunteering at a local church soup kitchen. Every Wednesday evening, I cooked for the homeless. I also began teaching free cooking classes for single mothers who wanted to start small food businesses. Each night before bed, I whispered a prayer. "Lord, I don't need much, just a heart that knows contentment." And something beautiful happened. When I stopped clinging to money, blessings began to flow naturally. People started writing kind reviews online. Food bloggers featured Nancy's table again. A local newspaper called it the comeback of the year. Our revenue grew, yes, but this time, it didn't own me. Every extra dollar was shared. With my staff, with the poor, with my church. One Sunday, as I sat in church, I came across a verse that summed up everything I had learned. Matthew 6:21. "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." I realized my treasure had once been in numbers and success. Now it was in service, faith, and peace. True prosperity isn't in the bank account, it's in the heart. It's waking up each morning without fear. It's knowing that what you have is enough because He is enough. Months later, my pastor invited me to share my story during Sunday service. I stood at the pulpit, hands trembling slightly, looking out at hundreds of faces. I used to think God took everything from me, I began. But now I see He didn't take. He freed me. He freed me from the chains of greed and fear. As I spoke, I saw tears in people's eyes. Many nodded, understanding what it means to lose yourself in pursuit of wealth. Afterward, a young woman came up to me. She said, "I was about to quit my small bakery because it wasn't making money, but your story reminded me that I started it to bring joy, not just profit. Thank you." That moment, more than any sale, any 5-star review, felt like true success. To touch someone's heart with what God had done for me. If you're listening to my story right now, maybe you're struggling with your finances or your career or the feeling that you're not enough. I want to tell you something I learned the hard way. True prosperity isn't about having more. It's about trusting more. Trusting that God's plan is better than your plans. That even when you lose, you might actually be gaining something deeper. Peace, purpose, faith. When I stopped chasing wealth and started chasing faith, everything changed. My business revived, yes, but more importantly, my soul revived. So tonight, as I lock the restaurant doors and the city lights flicker outside, I whisper one final prayer. Dear Lord, teach me to trust you more than I trust my bank account. Help me see that true prosperity is being rich in faith, not in possessions. Thank you for freeing me from the chains of greed and for filling my life with peace, purpose, and love. I give you my business, my work, my heart, all that I am. Amen. And that's my story, from brokenness to blessing, from profit to purpose, from money to faith. Because in the end, true prosperity doesn't come from what's in your wallet. It comes from what's in your heart. If my story touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment and share how God has worked in your life. Your story might inspire someone too. Don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend who needs hope today, and subscribe so you won't miss more stories of faith and real-life miracles. Let's keep spreading the message that true prosperity comes from faith, not money.